welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another Sunday video. In today's video, I'm doing a cook with me where I have filmed 4 recipes that I did throughout the week to show you what a normal week looks for us as far as eating wise. These recipes are a big hit with my kid and my husband, and obviously my daughter is only 6 months old, so she's not eating this quite yet. But just to give you a look at what we eat throughout the week and to maybe motivate you or give you some inspiration to make one of these dishes yourself, I'm going to put all the recipes in the description below, so that's where you can get them from. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy and get to see a little bit of what we eat throughout the week. Okay, for these Philly cheesesteak sloppy joes, you're going to want to brown your meat in a skillet, and when it is all brown, you're going to want to drain the excess grease. And then the recipe calls for bell peppers, onions, and mushrooms, but we do not like mushrooms, so we just did bell peppers and onions. So I chopped those up into finely chopped pieces and add those to the skillet. So I'll chop the peppers and the onions and set those off to the side. My meat was still browning at this point while I was chopping the vegetables. In the recipe, it calls for a whole onion, and in a lot of recipes that call for whole onion, I do not use a whole onion. That's an excessive amount of onion, so I'll usually just use a half of an onion or maybe just a couple rings of the onion, just depends on the recipe. So once you take the meat out of the pan and drain it, you'll leave it to the side, and you'll add the onions and peppers and mushrooms if that's what you guys like, and cook those until they are browned. Once those are cooked, you'll add the beef back to the mixture with a little bit of butter and cook that thoroughly. And then you will add the beef broth, cornstarch, Worcestershire mixture. I do not use cornstarch, I substituted flour and it worked just as well. This will make it more of like a sauce, and mix that all together. And then I take off provolone cheese and I just break it up into chunks and put it in, because they do not, at least at my Kroger, they don't have shredded provolone cheese, they just have lunch meat style provolone cheese. So I just break it up into a bunch of little pieces and start to mix it in until it's really stringy. And if you guys have had Philly cheesesteaks before, you'll know what it'll look like with the cheese in there. It's very stringy and nice and gooey and very, very delicious. And then I just put it on a bun. We had some extra cabbage and carrots left over, so we made a homemade coleslaw, and that is it for the cheesesteak sloppy joes. Okay, so next up we have white chicken chili, which I made in a crock pot. I will insert the recipe in my description below. I had 3 chicken breasts left over from a big pack of chicken that I bought at the store, and the recipe that I got off of Pinterest called for a bunch of random different spices, but instead of using all those different spices, I just found a white chicken chili spice McCormick packet at the store, so I ended up just using that, and I poured it all over the chicken. And then you take 2 cans of white northern beans and you drain them and rinse them. Then you put the beans on top of the chicken. And you do 1 can of corn and you drain it and rinse it and put it on top of that. And then you take 2 small cans of green diced chilies and you put that on top of the chicken with the beans and the corn. Like this recipe, it also calls for a whole onion, but that's just not my style, so I used a half of an onion and I chopped it up pretty fine and I put it in the crock pot with the rest of the food. You also add a little bit of garlic. It said a clove of garlic, but whenever a recipe says this, I just put some minced garlic in it. And then I added the chicken broth. I believe it is 2 containers of chicken broth that I added in, and then you'll stir it all together. I did it for low for 8 hours. You can also do it high for 4 hours. And then about 3 or 4 hours after that, the chicken was cooked. So I shredded it up, and I promise you the best way to shred chicken is to use a mixer that you would use with like baking and stuff. It shreds it so good, and it's easier than using a fork. And you pour it back in, you stir it in there. And there's only a couple hours left on the time. You take a half a thing of cream cheese. I think it's 4 ounces. I cut it up into cubes and put it in there, and then a cup of half and half, and stir it in there, so that'll make it nice and creamy. And that is it. All right, guys, this is one of my all-time favorites. It's my grandma's lasagna recipe. I am making double of what I put in the description. So in the description, I'm going to put what just to make one, but in this, I am making 2 because I have made one to take to my grandma's. So the amount of noodles you see here is more than what you would have for 2, and with the meat and etc. So you're going to want to boil your noodles, and then you want to brown the sausage. And with this lasagna, there are 3 layers, so I do 3 to 4 noodles per layer. And so I boil about 12 noodles per lasagna. So for one lasagna, I would boil 12 noodles just to be safe. You might have some left over or some might rip, so I just do 12 noodles per lasagna. Then you're going to make the cottage cheese mixture, which is another layer of the lasagna. And you're going to mix some eggs that hold the cottage cheese together. Mix that in with the cottage cheese, and then you're going to mix in some parsley and do salt and pepper. It's all listed in my description, and some Parmesan cheese. And you're going to mix that all together and put that off to the side. And then I'll add some garlic to the meat once it's browned and mix that in. And then I took, for a regular recipe, it's just 2 cans of tomato paste and 1 big can of crushed tomatoes. But for this, obviously, like I said, I'm making double, so I did more than that. And you're going to put the tomato paste in with the meat and then the crushed tomatoes, and you're going to mix that all together, and that is going to make the sauce. And you're just going to let that just sit on warm. I used a lot, and so it was spilling over the sides. So now you assemble all of the parts once the noodles are cooked, and it's just pretty much easy. Noodles, meat, cottage cheese, and then I put some mozzarella cheese, noodles, meat, cottage cheese, mozzarella cheese, and so on until you get to the top. And then you'll do a final layer of noodles over the top, and then just mozzarella cheese over the noodles. And then you put it in the oven at 375 and bake it for about 45 minutes. And this is the finished product, nice and bubbly and cheesy and super delicious. So my last recipe is going to be chicken quesadillas and guacamole. It's pretty much self-explanatory, but I use 2 avocados and mash them up, cut up some tomatoes and put those in, mix it together, cut up some onion, put that in and mix it together. And then cut up some lime and use about half a lime, squirt the lime juice in the guacamole and some salt. And that is my most favorite. And then I cut up the chicken. I cube it into really small pieces because that's how I like it. Set that aside in a bowl, and then I use this Spice Island taco seasoning from Costco. It is my ultimate favorite, and it's such a good deal for the amount of taco seasoning you get. We make Mexican food a lot in our household, so it's definitely worth the money. Mix that in with the chicken, just season it like that, and just keep mixing it in until you get it to the amount of seasoning that you like. And then spray a pan or put some oil in a pan, heat it up, and then just cook the chicken until it's cooked thoroughly. Take another pan and spray it and put a tortilla in it, and then the chicken, and I get like some Mexican or taco cheese that has like the Monterey Jack cheese in there, and just pretty much wait until the cheese is melted and it's all cooked and very nice and brown on the outside. And then this is the finished product. My toddler loves chicken quesadillas, so this is a big hit, and guacamole. All right, so that is it for my Sunday video. I hope you guys enjoyed those recipes. I hope maybe it looked appetizing to you guys, that you went out and bought the stuff and made it yourself. Like I said in my description, I'm going to have all the recipes, step by step, all the ingredients that you need for these recipes in my description. So go there, get that stuff, and go make that food for you guys this week, because it was delicious. Follow me on Instagram. If you're here, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you guys next Sunday. We are going on a road trip next weekend, so my next video is going to be a road trip vlog. So I'm very, very excited about that, and just keep chugging along. I appreciate all your guys' support, and I will see you guys in the next Sunday video. All right, bye.